Hey guys, Comet here. Welcome back to Alchemy Factory. We've made it all the way to double digits now. We're on episode 10. I've changed the shop a tiny bit since the base tour, so I moved the cashiers to there and there rather than there and there. So all the jewelry is going to go there, 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 and there. Potions are in the same spot. Jupiter's have been moved all the way over to there. And Saturn's I'm going to put right here. And this, the Saturn, is going to be the focus of this video. So in tech level 6, I unlocked the blast furnace, salt, and the Saturn. I'm going to stay away from copper for now. I think I'll save that for another episode. But if we take a look at the recipe here, it looks like it's going to be a lot of salt, a lot of clay, and a lot of glass. So I have some space prepared over on this plot here. I just put a box around the fertilizer build. I also bought this house, and the house that was right here. Fertilizer does need to be moved, but for now it's working, so I'm going to leave it where it is. It's in the way of the staircase here, but if I come around up to this floor, I have some space prepared with a bus already. So we take a look at the recipe in the shaper. It is 120 a minute of salt, 120 a minute of brick, and 120 a minute of glass. And I'm noticing all of these involve sand. Now, salt has an Athanor recipe, but it also can be made from a rock crusher, or a stone crusher, with rock salt. And between these two, I'm pretty sure this one is the better recipe. It can make sand at 10 a minute, where the Athanor can make sand at 40 a minute. The problem is that it makes salt only at 3.3 a minute, where this recipe just makes it 1-to-1, 10 and 10. I think this would introduce a lot of unnecessary complexity to the build, because then I would need to make charcoal powder and quicklime powder, not to mention the fuel cost on the furnace. So I'm going to go with the crusher for salt. That means I will get sand as a byproduct, but I need sand for all of the other recipes, so this one is perfectly fine. And that is 120 a minute. This makes 10 a minute, so I would need 12 of these crushers. And I have a blueprint for some crushers at 120 a minute. I'll need to get in a filter splitter on all of these outputs. Could run one output that way. The other filtered output this way. And I just need to figure out how to get these to stack. I could use some stands on top like this. Or I could just extend the stone and wood beam setup I have here. And I think I'm going to do that. So the splitters can stack with the crushers. It's just a matter of extending these stands up. Now the tricky part is to get all of these belts together. I can't do my normal switchback, because there's two belts. They would intersect with each other when they go into the vertical. But this does need to be doubled anyway. Let me do that first, right? Because I need the 120 of salt, and these are only making 10 each. So yeah, let's double this. Alright, there's my 12 grinders. I think I'll just use this space right at the end here to merge everything together. So all of the salt can come out of the bottom, and then all of the sand will be at this level. These need to go backwards. And then into this elevator. That will drop down and then join into the other output. This one will go into there. And I can just copy that up top. Alright, and I think that should work. So there's just a little bit of extra belting here at the end, but I think that's acceptable to get a full belt of sand and a full belt of salt. So that covers my salt requirements. I think to get the rock salt into the system, I could just do a switch back over here. There's plenty of space for that. So the salt will run along the bottom, or the rock salt will run along the bottom, up, over, up, and over. Now I can switch my attention to brick and glass. I think glass would be a little bit easier. Bricks require an intermediate step of assemblers for the clay, so let's do glass. I did unlock the blast furnace, but after using it a little bit, I don't think it's any better than just the stone furnace. You can fit 4 times as many kilns on top, but the extra space you just have to use for bussing anyway. So I don't feel like the overall build is any smaller by using the blast furnace, so I'm going to stick to just the basic stone furnace for all of my smelting needs here. If we take a look at glass, it requires 60 a minute of sand to get 10 a minute of glass. And I need 120 a minute of glass, so that is 12 of these setups. So I think something like this will work. I'll just have the furnaces share a fuel input, and then they can share an output port, because glass is only made at 10 a minute, and the total for all of the kilns can fit on a single belt. It's the inputs I need to worry about. This 60 a minute of sand, that's going to be tough. So I can only stack this 2 times before these furnaces or these kilns overconsume a single one of my belts. But this, I need to stack a few more times. So that is 6 on each side. I think I'll do something like this using elevators and just bring in the sand at multiple heights. So the first belt of sand can run into those elevators. The next belt of sand can run into these elevators here. And the third belt just across the top of all of that. Then I just need to get this mirrored onto the other side. And this should work for all of my glass needs. Now I just need to figure out brick. And that is also 120 a minute. So I could probably do something a little similar to this. I just wouldn't need these extra inputs on the sides, as brick only consumes clay at 10 a minute. So just along here, that can be all of the clay. And the same on this side. Now to supply all of that clay, I'm gonna need assemblers. And these take charcoal powder and more sand. Okay, sand is gonna be a problem. These produce at 15 a minute, That means it would take 8 of these to fully saturate a belt. Then I just need to worry about the charcoal powder. So that's going to take even more furnaces, but with crucibles this time. And crucibles make charcoal at 15 a minute. That can be ground into charcoal powder using the basic grinder. So this will supply 45 a minute, and I need 30 a minute times 8. That is 240 a minute. Then divided by 45. That gives me 5 1/3 of these furnaces. That is a total of, I think, 8 crucibles. So if I do this stack of 9 and then get rid of the middle one, then that would be all of the charcoal powder I need. This set here would make 1 full belt, and then this set here would make 1 full belt. So I'll arrange the furnaces so that they share an input. Then 1 belt of wood can go into those 8. I'm gonna need an elevator to bring in a 2nd belt of wood to go into these 8. And then the outputs can just combine together, because it's still 8 to 1 on each side. I think that's the easiest way of doing that. So this takes 2 belts of wood as an input and some fuel. This takes clay and fuel. This takes 6 belts of sand and fuel. Now I need to figure out how much sand the assemblers need. So 60 a minute times 8 is 480, then divided by the 120 for my belt speed, that's 4 belts of sand. So this needs 1, 2, 3, 4 belts. This needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 belts of sand. So that is 10 belts of sand across everything. This is producing 1 already. So that brings us down to just 9 belts of sand I need to come up with from somewhere else. 9 belts of sand, my god. Okay, so I could do more crushers into grinders. I could just do limestone to rock to sand. I think that'll work. And the grinder makes sand at 10 a minute. Okay. That means I would need 12. To fully saturate a single belt. And then I could stack that 9 tall. And that would give me all of the sand I need for everything here. Although it might be easier and less belting if I just put this up against the glass build here, so the sand is consumed right next to where it's being produced. Yeah, so instead of taking sand as an input, this can take rock as an input. So I'll just mirror this on the other side. So I need to extend the fuel line there. Cover it back up. Then I need to get in some bussing for these stones. I quite like this. I'm gonna get a little bit of extra space. I'm gonna move this over to here, because now I need to figure out how to make all of that rock. That's 6 lanes of rock. Well, one of these crushers can supply a full belt of rock. So I could just make 6 of these, 3 on each side. Okay, and that will supply all of the rocks to the grinders to supply the sand to the furnaces. I think belting-wise, I'll just run it like this. Or I could... maybe not. I have a better idea. I'm going to take this and rotate it in this direction. So that will be the output there. Then the limestone, I'm going to reverse that one so that it comes in from the opposite direction. So the stone output here needs to come up 1, and then the stone output here needs to come up 2. Alright, I like the way that looks a lot better. Because then everything keeps flowing in the same direction, and I can just put a purchasing portal right here for all of the limestone. Now I just need to mirror that, so let's take this whole thing. There we go. This needs a purchasing portal for this side. Oh, I didn't reverse the limestone yet. Okay, let me do that. I should be able to just slot this in. Right there, right there, and right there. This will run along to feed all of those. I think that covers glass. So all of that is just to get 1 full belt of glass out. Now I only need 4 belts of sand for the remaining clay. One of them will be provided by the rock salt, though, so I only need 3. So if I add on to the rock salt build, I can put in some more crushers here to do the remaining sand. I don't know, maybe I don't want them that close. Well, this should work though. So if I get this right up against that, it sticks out a little bit. But I could do 1 purchasing portal here for limestone, and then 1 right here for rock salt. And then the money can connect to both like that. So salt will still be on the bottom. But the sand can come across the top of that. So that one can plug into there. That output can plug into the next one. And that output can plug into that one. No, not quite. This needs to be there. This one goes into height 3, and then this one goes into the top one. There we go. So I've got the glass covered, I've got the salt covered, I've got all of the sand covered. The only thing I'm missing is the wood for the charcoal. Wood is converted to charcoal at a 1-to-1 ratio. I know I need 2 belts of charcoal, that means I need 2 belts of wood. And wood, in the table saw, is made at 30 a minute. So 4 table saws would fully saturate a single belt. So I just need to double that. And I don't think I'm going to bother stacking them vertically. I think I'm just going to get them up on some boxes. And maintain the fuel line down the center. And then offset one of them. So that they're up higher. That way they can go into the upper belt. And I think something like this is perfectly fine. So I will take this whole thing and rotate it, because it needs to go into the assemblers to make the clay for the brick. And I think I can just continue this pattern with some boxes. And if I extend the fuel line, I might even be able to just put this right at the end here. So it's going to be 4 assemblers on both sides. I can run the charcoal powder in like this. Sand is going to have to come up and over, but I'll figure that part out later. I'm definitely going to extend the fuel line. I really like this idea. All of their outputs will join up, go out, and then split to the 2 sides. Yeah, this will fit together perfectly. Take that, snug it up right there. Alright, and that is staying almost exactly in line. It's just the table saws are a little bit wider. But that one fuel line can run through everything. Sand, that is the tricky one. Sand is going to be provided by 4 different belts. I think I'll just come around this way. Need to go up and over. But this belt here can feed this and this. Then I can get another belt on top of that. To feed that one and that one. Then it's just a matter of mirroring it on the other side. Alright, now I think the only thing I'm missing is fuel. So in this last little bit of space I have here, I need a crusher to crush up some coal. And then I need my coke powder build to turn that coal into usable fuel. So right here is where the money is going to come up. I think I'll extend this bus. over to about there is fine. So right there is where money can come up. So run along into the bus. I guess this direction is fine. I'll keep everything going counterclockwise. I'll just run all the way around. In a big loop like this. And I think it would be good practice to use a priority merger here to prioritize any money that is already on the bus, rather than accepting any new money. And money will need to continue upwards to the next floor. So if I think about that, I can get a little mini switchback. Just like that. And then the Saturns that are made here can be shipped back down from the main bus there. It would just come down off of its respective height and down to here, and then I can ship it over into the shop bus. So I will start with fuel up against the bus with a purchasing portal right there. That lets me know how close I can make it. Right, so that will get coal going. And then coke powder can go right next to that here. Now I need to take the sand and salt build and get it up against the bus here. I need to make sure I have space. So right about, I think, there might be good. Single output for money there. I'll get this over here. Right up to where it says overlapping. Back one, there we go. Money connects straight in, perfect. And then this, doing all of the brick, can go over here. Perfect. And I'll just put the shaper in the middle of the room here. Of course, there's no middle. Okay. As close to the middle as I can get it. I'll go closer to the right side. I need the output from here. I need the output from here. And then I just need the output from all of this right there into that. And I think that's all it takes to make Saturns. So then I could run this belt. Back over to the bus. And then get it on one of the lines there, run it around, and over to this output. But I'm not too sure where its slot is yet, because I need all of this sand to run around back to these inputs here. All of the glass has its sand being provided by money, so I don't need to worry about that. So I will have money, fuel, sand, 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 sand. Then Saturns are up here. So I don't need anything beyond this point. So that can all go away. I'm going to take this corner piece and plug it in over here. Continue simplifying. Alright, and that bus is much more manageable now. So I will route this sand back this way. And the first location it will go into is height 3. Then height 4. And height 5. The last thing I need to do is connect up the Saturn to the top height there. And then drop it down to that height and export it. So let's get some money up here and see if this thing works. I can just branch off from the existing line there. I think that's connected up to something. Yeah, it's connected back into the main shop bus. So here comes the money. Got the first few pieces of coal going through. Now these furnaces do need to be seeded with a little bit of starting fuel. But once they get going, they'll always supply themselves. Looks like we've got some coke powder now. Excellent. That will go along and get sent into the furnaces. I've got some rock salt going now. Got some rocks on the bus. Excellent. Those will run over and get... Wait. What? Is that correct? No, these take sand as an input. Ah, jeez. Okay, I missed a step. Just need a few grinders here. So I will do a 12 by 3 matrix. Raised up on some blocks. So that it's at the correct height. And then just extend this bus out to here. And then send the sand into the correct position on the bus. Okay, that makes more sense now. I just need to get this connected up to fuel. I forgot to extend this line out. And then I just need to get this one connected up to fuel as well. Then I think that's everything. Yeah, I have some glass now. That means these are working. Excellent. Got some clay. Should be getting bricks soon. Alright, yeah, got our first set of bricks here. Looking good. 1% of the way towards a Saturn. But it's going to take a long time for this whole thing to get properly saturated. So I think in the meantime, I blueprint some of this stuff and make it available on my Discord. So I'll do it in chunks. That way you don't need a giant inventory slot to stamp everything down. So I'll do the sand here. For glass. So this is glass. 120 a minute. The crusher build is already in the blueprints. That's just the crusher here. So I'll also blueprint this clay maker, or this coal and clay maker here. So this will be brick. That also produces at 120 a minute. Confirm. Yeah, so all of the rock salt crushers are just the regular crushers with a filter output. I'm not going to bother blueprinting that. These crushers are the exact same as those crushers. And then, yeah, the fuel maker is already in the blueprints. So I think, yeah, I just needed the glass and the brick. Combined with the existing blueprints gives me Saturns. I do think this floor has enough space to actually run 2 shapers. I don't think I'm gonna need that many Saturns. If I do in the future, I could always expand this or even just copy it onto another floor above. There's really no limit to how tall these towers can be. As long as I have enough throughput on the money belt, I could just keep building up and up and up. 99%. Almost there. Yes, alright. And I get an achievement. Nice. And now I need to figure out how to route that around into the shop bus. I think I'll just add another layer to this. And then I can run it all the way over next to the Jupiters. Or I guess I could just run it over to here for now. The exact location where I plug into the shop bus is pretty arbitrary. Just as long as I can keep track of where it is, I can always pull off into the correct location. We'll just run across the top like this, and around. So this is the input to the D bus, and I think I'll just put Saturns on D1. Why not? So then I have to find the Saturn location at the shop. That is back over here. On this box. So I get a bus, or I get a vertical, up to this height. That is D0. Right there is D1. So I just have to wait for the Saturn to get into the shop bus, go all the way around, and then make its way into here. I've also changed this area a little bit, you might have noticed that. I have these extra boxes here, and this is just if I have some extra junk in my inventory, so like this is the gearbox. If I deconstruct something somewhere, rather than just deleting everything, I can toss the gears into here, and then they'll slowly be fed back into the shop. So we do not waste here. I refuse to use the trash barrel, and I'm going to try and recycle as much material as possible. I really just like watching my factories run. Now making 0.2 Saturns a minute is pretty slow. So I think maybe between episodes, now that I have everything all planned out and I have all the builds, I think I might scooch this over a little bit to the left, copy the glass build right next to it, and then I'll double the glass and brick. So I'll put another brick next to the glass, and then I'll put the glass next to the brick. And then I need to double this whole thing. I could probably fit that over against that wall. And then just run the sand around the same bus to feed the second set of clay and glass. I think the next episode really have to get into copper powder so that I can go into malachite. That's another item I can sell at the shop. Bearings I could also sell at the shop. Could even sell bronze rivets, and then at that point I could start making my own copper coins. I don't think I'll get into the Mars in the next episode. I think I'll do just all of the basic copper stuff. Then in the episode after that, I can get into the Mars. And potentially the stackable crucible to make builds a little bit more compact. Growth potions are still a little ways away. But once I get to the growth potion stage, I would have to completely redesign the Jupiters, because right now they rely on the advanced fertilizer build for all of their wood. But I do want to clean up this area here so that I can put in a proper staircase. But that is still a few episodes away. I think I might put growth potions down below on that bottom floor below me here. Because if I put growth potions down below, then I can repurpose this whole space up here for Jupiter production. Dedicated Jupiter production. Because right now, the Jupiters stutter a little bit when I'm not fully consuming all of the fertilizer, which is okay. It's really, I put them in as a wood sink, not necessarily to mass-produce Jupiters, but I want to start isolating all of the build chains so they're not dependent on each other. But I'll do a quick recap of how this all works. It takes money in. I first make coal to be turned into coke powder. That supplies all of the fuel for all of these processes. This chunk right here is for salt. I get an extra belt of sand as a byproduct, and that's just run in with all of the other sand. I need extra rocks to supplement the missing sand. So all of that totals 4 belts of sand, 1 belt of salt, 1 belt of fuel. That comes around, goes into these processes, over to make clay. So I combine the sand with some wood, table saws turn it into planks, and then these crucibles turn it into charcoal powder. That's combined with the sand to make clay, and the clay gets smelted into bricks. And then for the glass, I just have these purchasing portals supplying limestone to a bunch of crushers, and then the crushers send the rocks to the grinders to make sand, and they're smelted into glass there. So that is 1 full belt of salt, 1 full belt of glass, and 1 full belt of bricks to make Saturns at a rate of 0.2 a minute. That is a lot of stuff for very little output. But I'd say my mission is complete now, so I'll end the episode here. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.